Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ferguson of Redwood Fellows. Welcome to Stories from the Grove, a podcast production of Redwood Fellows made possible thanks to the generous support of CCM. Our media is filled with examples of people exploiting their differences to pull us apart. This is different. Stories from the Grove is about leaders who seek to lean into their differences so they can understand each other, find common ground to strengthen Connecticut. I hope you enjoy Stories from the Grove.
Let's get started.
Let's go.
All right. So I am Rebecca Good. I'm the Vice President of the Redwood Fellows Experience for the Redwood Fellowships. And who are you?
My name is Jason Price, longtime New Haven resident. I am a co-founder of Next Haven. I sit on several boards in town. Climate Haven was on the United Way of Greater New Haven and some other nonprofit boards.
Jason, I like it because you just went and gave like your whole list. I feel like, well, now let me go give let me give my list. So I also, I am the National Vice Provost for Relay Graduate School of Education. I founded a graduate school here in the state of Connecticut for teachers, which was about 10 years ago. I started that project. New Haven resident, also love our local city. Do a lot of work in communication, persuasive communication, one-on-one executive coaching, and just writing for the neighborhood and writing for our city.
Yeah, so you're the professional in this dialogue.
Yeah.
It's great to be in conversation.
It is. So we're here because we were asked about our leadership stories.
Yeah.
And thinking about what are the leadership stories that we might not always share or doesn't get as much attention. And I was thinking about you and I, Jason, because our kids went to elementary school together.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, if you were to give leadership advice to my daughter, who is now 17, and you met when she was probably about 6 or 7, what type of leadership advice would you give to her as she's about to go out in the world?
Okay, well, you made it easy.
Yeah.
Because I know your daughter, Layla, and I know how bright she is, and I know she's ambitious.
True.
And, if I had to give kind of real advice that, you can't really learn in a book and that you think is, the things that you need to be successful, there are those bits of advice that, you don't know. Yeah. And I remember when I was leaving a job in banking, traditional banking, private equity, to do something entrepreneurial, I got some advice from someone, and he said, you don't know if you're going to like it. And that it resonated more afterwards than before. And what he was saying is that sometimes when you take a leap, the activities that you have to get involved in, what you need to execute are slightly different than maybe what you were trained to do. And so I think the real advice is if you know yourself really well, you know what you're good at, and when you take those leaps, and then you combine that with this idea that you will be doing things that you didn't expect to do. I remember I was, taking vehicles in and out of proper insurance to make sure they were insured. I was, having to have conversations about management at lower levels than I was used to speaking to, but that's what it took. So my advice is, if I had to distill it all, is, talk to your peers, get as much advice as you can, get to know yourself really, really well. Think about all of the things that you're going to have to do that aren't really related to that end goal, which might be making money, helping the community, doing whatever you want to do. And then be, very thoughtful about, are you ready to do those things and if you'll like it? Yeah. That'd be my biggest point of advice.
All right, Layla. Make sure you watched at least to this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
What else? What else you got?
What else do I have in terms of?
Or actually, your sons are incredible. They're going off into the world. They're getting ready to start a new chapter academically, and this is an exciting point. If I were to give your sons advice on leadership from what I've learned, and thinking about this generation, and as an educator, can I give some advice?
I want to hear it, and I need it.
I really think about relationships in a very different way now for this generation, and how the young people are connecting to one another and building, people say it's networking, but it's for them, it's really building relationships outside of an echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And how are they making those connections? Because we know if we look back and how we have gotten into positions and how have we had influence, a lot of it can be connected to the relationships that we've had.
Right.
And a lot of those relationships might have just been made on a casual conversation while you were taking the Metro North into the city. It might have been made over a dinner. Like, really investing in building relationships, your network, and like tending to them. Like, don't let people just like slide by. Like, really tend to those relationships, because I think those are going to be things that are going to benefit any type of academic success, or any, like, you're working really hard. You're going to need those people either to help you on your way, to check you along your way, or to affirm you along your way.
Yeah. So. And so I agree with all of that. That's great advice. I spend countless hours talking to my boys about those things. The only thing I would add to that is, again, back to that awareness. I think, our kids go to competitive schools.
Yeah.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
They're focused on just achieving. But at the end of the day, we know there's a bigger game that's being played. And that game is related to a lot of what you're talking about, your network, your ability to make relationships. And just to support what you're saying is what I try to tell my boys, sometimes successfully, sometimes we have, issues that we have to overcome. But it's, look, nail what you have to nail, which is, your job is to go to school, get the best grades you can get, be kind, be a good citizen, show up on time, all those things that are valuable. If you do well at that, you'll have options. But we know that the game is bigger than just having those options. The game is really about who's your family, who's around you, who's in your network. And I also believe that when you're nailing some of the basics, it gives you the confidence to have those kind of conversations that we know are meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge with my kids, because they're young, and maybe with Layla, because she's young, is they don't understand that a conversation today may pay off a few years from now. And that, when you're standing solid on your square, whatever that is, as an academic, as an athlete, as both, et cetera, that should give you the confidence to ask questions that you may not have the answer to, or that you may feel vulnerable, or you may feel like are stupid questions.
Yeah.
But it's been many times that we both know that it's been the stupid questions or the inquiries that happen early on in a relationship. Maybe you met them on the train, or maybe, we have casual interactions like we do between our kids. But those are the folks that come through for you.
Yes.
And, if I take that to professional advice, I remember I had a mentor, and he said, return every phone call. And I said, every single phone call. Not every phone call is meaningful. Yeah. I'd like to hit decline on a lot of them. But, the conclusion was, because at the end of the day, you don't know who's going to answer your call when you ask for help. Mm-hmm. We're in a world of savvy people. Mm-hmm. And they can make you feel as if they're your best friends, that you are their best friend. But it's in those moments when you ask that you find out who are your friends, or I could say who are your advocates, and who are those who just may not have the time.
Yeah.
So, and it's been those that I least expected that return my phone calls and have been the most meaningful in terms of some of the advice that they've given me along the way. So, I just tell my boys, nail what you got to nail. Be confident, ask stupid questions, and follow up.
How do you know when to say no? Because people will come and they'll say, oh, do this, have this, be the lead on this, do that. How do you have a no? Is there like a what brings you to?
Well, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at saying no. I'm a naturally curious person, and I like projects. And I like to do things, so I'm inclined to just jump in anyway, even when it's not good for me. I think for me, this is 100% personal. I'm trying to do a better job of really getting to know myself, and I know that sounds kind of weird in your middle ages, but just understanding.
Why is that weird? That's not weird. I wish more leaders would get to know themselves.
Well, how much capacity I have, what I'm passionate about, my own health, my own mental health, my commitment to being a good father and a husband. So I just prioritize. I'm trying to prioritize. And I'm saying, look, I need to look out for myself to be healthy so that I can be the best member and contributor to my household as possible.
Yeah.
That's number one for me. Number two is my family. Number three are the things that I like to do, right? Or, I'd say like having the resources to do the things I like to do. And then after that, I want to contribute to change. Yeah. And so then I think about, so I try to start at the beginning and the end and be, I try to be as honest as I can about how much work and time it's going to take to really move the needle.
Yeah.
And then I jump in. And I think as I get older, I get most frustrated when I'm not in a position to run fast and quickly because in my mind, I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm right. I'm often wrong many times. But, I have to have that passion and I have to know that everything else is taken care of so that I have the capacity to really sprint. And if I do all that work and at the end of it, I just say, look, I don't have the capacity for it, then I try to say no.
Yeah.
But probably don't say no enough. Well, you tell me, how do you say no?
I don't often say no because I believe I'm really optimistic. I believe there's a route. So somebody brings a problem and I'm like, And they're like, no, there's no possible way out. And I'm like, we might not like the ways, but there's always a way. And so I definitely, as getting older, think about my well-being. Like, how am I'm going to be able to give my best self if I say no to this right now. Right. My yes a week from now is going to be like 10 times better.
Yeah.
And so I have to kind of give that freedom in my mind to say this is allowing for a better yes down the line.
Yeah.
And then I also have to I've become a little bit more savvy about understanding what are people's intentions about asking. Are they really looking for a solution or like a thought partner or like we're really going to solve something together? Or are they looking to kind of tap into my network or a reputation? Or am I being used as a woman of color to be a face of something? And that I realize I got to be more discerning about that because I don't want to be I don't want to be a poster child for something that like I'm not not behind, and I feel like that can happen.
Yeah. It's good to grow up and know yourself. Right. Because part of it is feeling guilty.
Right.
Because you can help.
You can help.
But you have to be selfish to provide or leave that capacity to do the work that you really want to do.
Right.
And to provide the time where you can make that impact.
Right.
That you can make.
And I don't want to send the message that to lead or to make change that you have to like destroy yourself. I don't or give so much of yourself that you look back and you're like, oh, but I missed those years with my kid at this age or something. I worry about that. I don't want to send that message.
Yeah, I worry about that. I mean, I have carved out the time for family just because it's that time, and my kids are reaching college age. They'll be gone soon. So these years are precious.
Yeah.
So I definitely leave time for that. But I also have more to do.
Yes.
Right.
So much more.
So there's that fear of, you want to do more. I'm just repeating what you're saying again, but you don't want to get pulled into something that prevents you from doing the stuff that that you're passionate about. That's going to make the greatest impact. And it can be hard because we are around dynamic people, interesting people, folks I do want to be around, folks that I learn from. But sometimes I have to say, it's just not the time.
It's not the time.
It's not the time.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it will be and maybe it won't. And, I will try to give what I can give if I can give something. But, we got to be careful to say, look, I love the idea. Would love to be involved under certain circumstances. Right now, it's not great for me. But if I can do anything to help, put you in touch with somebody else, et cetera, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
And again, it's a working process for me. I'm not great at it, but to me that is nirvana, right? When you know yourself well enough that you can get in and out of things in a way that's meaningful to other people, but it's also keeps us healthy and focused and fulfilled.
What's hardest leadership lesson you've learned so far?
I think the hardest leadership lesson I've learned is on hiring. And, the resume doesn't always support the work that needs to get done. And, I've hired very, credentialed, high-level executives and professionals at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is, I go back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation. Sometimes when you're doing new stuff, it requires you to do things that you may believe are beneath you, or, you may have to get engaged in activities that you were doing, when you were starting your career. But that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And I've had the conversations with a lot of these executives in startup situations, and, they've run large organizations, tons of direct reports, et cetera. And they'll say, okay, now where is my desk? And, you have to look at them and you say, this is a startup. You don't have a desk. But your job is to find a desk, right? Set up more desks, build a team, help us secure resources, money, access, et cetera. And, 6 to 12 months from now, you'll be in a position where you're back to leading the way that you know how to lead. But the moment calls for you to dig in.
Yes.
At all levels. And I find that, I've learned that the hard way, but I find that dynamic to be fascinating, that, there are people that are more powerful than I am. They're probably smarter than I am. They may even have more success and accolades than what I've achieved. But when it comes down to doing the hard work that they hadn't done in a long time, it's sort of like hands up, like, where do I find the bathroom? Right. And it's kind of like we're building the bathroom while we're building the business.
Yes.
So I've always said, you hire people for their intellect, clearly, and, what they can contribute. But, you hire for the job that needs to get done. And if that means you have to have 10 interviews with a person and, have them speak to other people to get to the root of when you're out of answers.
Yeah.
You want to know what they're going to do. Are they going to look around and say, hey, Jason, I'm stuck? Or are they going to have that professional judgment and that energy to just dive in and know that even though it's beneath them, it probably is beneath their pay grade, but that, they have the confidence that they're going to be in a place where they get to do it the way they want to do it.
Yes.
Hiring
is
a challenge.
It's one I love. I love building teams, like I founding teams, and because it's like putting together an amazing puzzle of finding these amazing elements and being able to fit it together and know that when they come together, it's going to be an incredible team. And I'm humble enough to know I need to hire around my weaknesses or the areas that I'm not going to be the smartest in everything. I'm not going to be the greatest in everything. So I need to hire. I know I'm great at something, so I need to hire around me all that greatness. So we have one big great puzzle. But out of everybody that I have ever hired, the ability to be humble and adaptable, no matter all the accolades, no matter all the fancy degrees and the fancy awards, humble and adaptable will always win out. It just is like the key ingredient, in my opinion, for people who I want to work with on a team and who will grow something.
No, I agree. And what I always, because we're older now.
Yes.
So we're constantly mentoring younger entrepreneurs, professionals, leaders, et cetera. And, I often say when you're building a business, the hardest thing to do is to build a business that can be controlled outside of your sphere of influence and what you can actually touch, which means you have to hire the people that have the sensibility and the judgment to make calls.
Yes.
But also know when they're in trouble.
Yes.
And to reach out. So I've been in situations where, startup organizations were about to run out of money. And we get the call as leadership right when we're about to run out of money.
Right.
That's the time where you should pick up the phone sooner.
Yes.
Right. But there are also times where maybe you're just short on a little bit of money. I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I don't need that call.
So you'll figure that out, and you can decide, you can discern when that is.
So I say, look, I want to hire adults. I want to hire people with judgment. I want to hire folks that have seen enough that they know the difference between I got this and I have a solution, and let me pick up the phone and call my colleagues because we may have a big problem. And the last thing we'll need is for us to be scrambling at the last minute, trying to find the money, trying to find, help this, or whatever it may be, because they didn't have the judgment. They weren't adult enough to say, I've got a problem, or maybe they weren't confident enough. So, I think in my hiring practice, you said that you like hiring people. I love people. Mm. I like working in teams, but I don't like hiring that much because I've made a lot of mistakes. Mm. And I haven't made mistakes on, I think, credentialed folks and whether I like them, et cetera, but I made mistakes on fit.
Yeah.
In terms of what it is that we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, what we have in place, what tools are available to that particular person to solve the problem. And so I have a lot of anxiety around matching those credentials with maybe something that's new.
Yeah.
But, I do feel like you need help there as well. So, maybe you need placement firms or, to come in and run processes for you.
Yeah.
And, they sort of vet a list to get it down to a few that are more suited to the job at hand. Mm-hmm. But I'm not great at it. I haven't been great at it.
It's that you say fit, the part that I can see somebody who you want to be a really great at this job, and you're like a great human, and I like you as a great human, but this isn't the role for you to thrive in.
Yes.
And like that is it's hard to see when somebody is such an awesome human sometimes.
It's hard.
And that is something that with lots of practice and lots of mistakes and hiring and saying, oh, that was not the right fit, to train my eye to be like, you're a great human. I know you want this, but this role is not where you're going to thrive.
Yes.
And being able to be really transparent and honest with somebody who man, you're like a really great human, and helping. But then I do feel the need to help them go find you'd actually probably thrive in this space or in that space, because this is not the role for you.
And I think
that's hard.
I think the onus is also, I have to be honest, on me, maybe as you, as a leader who hires folks, and, what you say to people along the way and how you mentor and develop them. So I prefer to hire from within.
Yeah.
You want a cast of employees who are all ambitious and eager and looking for that next stretch assignment. And, my role is to kind of eliminate some of the anxiety around the ambition that we see in young people, right? So what I always try to say is I'll say, look, two things need to happen here, because a lot of times we're working in nonprofits. One is I see you as the executive director. Let's say if they're one down, but there's some things that I want to help you with.
Yeah.
And I usually try to put those opportunities in their path. Sometimes it might even be, developing skills and credentials that will just help with the job. Sometimes it might be, like you're saying, is putting them in touch with another mentor who can help them give perspective. And sometimes it is picking them up when they fail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they're not coming along, you do have to hire from the outside. So you have to match this sort of responsibility that we have inside the organization to bring these folks along and make these promises that, to get back to my earlier point, that if it doesn't work here, you will have done enough and seen enough that I can make sure that you're going to end up someplace else.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you want to be able to say, I worked with Jason and his group. I worked on, M&A. I worked on, the balance sheet, the income statement, operations, human resources. And we did all this global stuff that everybody can see. And this is how I'm involved in it. But I have to go. And I want to be in a position to say, congratulations.
Yes.
Because you actually put in the work.
Yes.
You did it. You grew, and now you're making more money. You have more responsibility. Just remember that this is your home.
Yeah.
So I like to get into that cadence when you can. I think it's harder when it's a startup. Again,
right.
Because there are so many unknowns. There's so many pivots in the startup organization that you have to be ready for. And when you are in those small, groups, I call them heavyweight groups in the very beginning, you're tied together by more than just, the work that you're doing and the salary or how much you earn by being there. You know how it is. You're picking up the phone at 9, 10, 11 o'clock,
so 24/7.
solving problems, about their families. They know if you're not feeling well and if you're upset with your daughter for whatever reason. I'm sure that never happens. But
never.
But, you're working through some things at home. They are your family, and so then the emotions come in.
Yes.
And, when folks are eager, if you're not nurturing it, like we're talking about, the whole leadership conversation, it can be toxic.
And creating boundaries.
And creating boundaries.
It's like, yes, you can be all-consuming, but there's a way to create, you've got to be able to create boundaries and hold boundaries, or else that toxicity just eats away.
Yeah, or, young people might say, hey, you're casual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you permission to be casual. I'm casual because, I'm trying to operate up here.
Yeah.
At the strategy level. I'm willing to do the work. But I hired you to do something, and let's begin there. Did you get it done? Did you hit the deadline? Did you, were you kind to your colleagues? Were you?
Let's get the basics covered first.
Let's get the basics.
Yeah.
Or are you in opposition to, the momentum? Or maybe even did get something done and it's all about them.
Yeah.
And I like to create the environments where, yes, you will get the credit and you get the benefit from a lot of great work, but we do it for the mission.
A mission.
And we do it for the team. So, I say it as if I have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I don't. When I went to grad school, got an MBA, a lot of it was technical, right? That's all the stuff I paid attention to.
Yeah.
How do I make more money, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have these conversations about, organizational behavior and
that's my world.
Exactly.
You and I are we're bookends.
Well, I've had the class in power influence, and everybody's kind of, we're young at the time. Everyone is kind of, not paying attention.
Right.
But what's funny, what we're talking about, what I talk about with my friends now that we're 20-something years out of grad school, is the organizational behavior often is dominating the technical skills.
Yes.
And the reason why is because
it often slows them down. It can slow and impede upon the technical skills if your organizational behavior is not one that cultivates the technical skills to thrive.
Is that, and everybody's good.
Yeah.
Right? You go to certain organizations where they hire from the best schools and the smartest people. They're all smart.
Yeah.
Probably smarter than me. Mm-hmm. But that's not all of it, right? Once you get beyond I call it eating your spinach. Can you do the spreadsheet? Can you break down, a strategic problem and communicate it in 3 slides and all that other kind of stuff? And, kids go to these Ivy League schools and great schools and learn how to do that. And then it's like, okay, now we can all do that. Now, can you take that meeting that you didn't want to take because it may lead to something? Can you, do you have the judgment to say, I did all the analysis, I'm out of information, but I've seen enough to know that this is a problem or it's not a problem? That's where I'm really, I'm grading you on your ability to do that, not your ability to put a spreadsheet. That's a commodity.
Right. You're like, that's the baseline. Of course
they're everywhere. They're in China, they're in India,
Yes.
they're in the United States. I can outsource all of it. But I need somebody who I can say, hey, go down to City Hall, talk to Rebecca. I know you're not in City Hall, but talk to Rebecca about A, B, and C, distill that information, and then make a decision.
Yeah.
And if to me it's that simple. And if you can't do that, then it's not good for me. It's not good for them. It's not good for the body.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say that. Okay, this is we won't use New Haven because we know a lot of the people.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was our New Haven, but
let's use an avatar.
An avatar
for New Haven. So if you're in a city,
okay,
with
we're in the
kind
city.
of these attributes, and you wanted to make kind of big systemic change for the better, to make it more equitable for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you would want to do? Big, small, or indifferent?
It's so interesting because you ask that, and I'm like, oh, I don't have one thing I don't have these big things that are not an absence of children. Everything that I kind of put my mind to is I think about how is this going to be better for kids and for the next generation? Because I don't think that right now, like how we're moving is like great, is great. But I'm like, how can I change the school systems to be better for the next generation?
Yeah.
Children who are 5 years old right now with housing insecurity or food insecurity, what are we doing so that when they're 10, when they're 15, what needs to happen so that they don't have housing insecurity or food insecurity? And those are the pieces I usually come back to. Who are the people I need to gather in a room? And it's very similar to you, and have the conversation about, hey, there's a problem. There is no reason a city this size, there's no reason our country should have any 5-year-old, any child that is hungry, that doesn't know where to lay their head at night, and doesn't have access to a safe, like socially safe, physically safe, emotionally safe learning environment. And to me, like everything goes towards the children who need that space so that they can take on the next generation.
Right.
So when you ask that question, I'm like, oh, I only come back to kids. It's the educator in me, right? Like, so what needs to happen to create the conditions for kids to thrive?
Right.
And what I then jump to in my thinking, I'm like, well, what are the barriers? Who is blocking it so children are not thriving?
Yeah.
And then I think of, well, what policies in place, what legislation is in place, what city functions are not working right now or putting a barrier to children thriving in our city.
Right. I like it. I mean, we all approach problems through our lens. Right. And so I do agree that if the kids are all right, then we're probably all right.
All right.
And I think that's just a human condition. We're oriented towards safety of our offspring and for ourselves. And then once we take care of that, again, going back to everything we're talking about, then I have enough of myself and I have the capacity to really help others.
Right.
But again, the central question is, will my kids be safe? Will they have opportunities? Can I find a job? Am I being discriminated against? Do I have to worry about if I'm safe in the streets because, crime is high? Do I have to move out of our city to go to better public schools because New Haven is failing? I'm not saying they're failing or not, but if they are failing. So, your approach through the schools is just as good as any approach because the school system touches everybody. Everybody. I agree.
Everybody. Would you say your approach is through business? Like, what would you say your approach is through?
I wouldn't. Well, I mean,
like if I'm saying my approach of change and making things better is through education and through the education system, and through maybe like the political or like the legislative system and policy. What would you're like? Oh, I see problem. We see the same problems. What's your approach?
Trying to solve everything for.
Yeah, trying to solve everything.
Yeah. I think, you said it's my approach. It's my approach.
Or where do you come in? Like, what's your entry point? My entry point is usually through children, through education. What's your entry point?
My entry point is through business.
Okay, yeah.
And it's through access to capital. And I feel that way because I understand the system. I'm not here to say it's right or it's wrong. It's the system. And America is built on capitalism. And we say small government. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent. That's what the field we're all playing on.
Yep.
We believe that money solves all problems. The truth is it doesn't, right? But you do need access to capital. And that capital really comes in, I think, 3 forms. It comes in what I would call investment capital or risk-based capital. Call that like foreign direct investment or investment. Money on the outside that's coming in and then we're going to do something with it. It comes from taxes, which is like revenue from, policy and municipal. And I think the other one is really kind of like philanthropy, right? Like that's really all there is. And so we know that, and you've heard me say this before, is like the world is a washing capital. It's everywhere. But the truth is we need more of it here. So I think what I would do after identifying all the problems is I would try to raise as much money as I could for the city that we're talking about.
Right.
Right. And then I would identify the people and I would put them in position and I would give them the freedom to try to solve particular problems within that bucket or that challenge. So if it's, health and safety, I'd have a health and safety czar. I'd make sure that health and safety czar had as much capital as they needed to make real systematic change. If it's, crime, same thing. If it's education, same thing. If it's, kind of like jobs and innovation, same thing. And I would look outside and I'd say, the problems that we're trying to solve here are the same problems that we're trying to solve domestically and maybe even globally.
Yes.
And just say, like, so if you're a billionaire in the world and you're contributing money to A, B, C, and cause, do it here. And let's put it to work and let's measure it.
Yeah.
And so now prove out your theories about, I'm just making up one, let's say a big tech billionaire says, I think all of our cities need to be wired for whatever.
Yeah.
What is it now? Fiber optic. I'd say, okay, what's the cost of that? That's $2 billion. You give away $4 billion a year. Let's prove it here. Give us some of that.
I love that.
Right. And then you can vertically integrate it. You can begin to say, to your point, you could say, all right, well, let's follow the children. Like, what is the issue? Birth at 3 is a challenge because a lot of mothers are out of the home, having to make money. And so they're not trying to neglect their kids, but eventually the kids are neglected out of necessity. So what do we put in place there to ensure that those kids are thriving while, mothers or fathers are out in the world making their way because they have to.
Yeah.
And I know, we have friends that have programs and nonprofits that address that exactly. That's why I kind of bring it up. But there's other ways to do that. When you identify people like the founder of whatever.
If you have, it's the concentration. It's the concentration of that level of ingenuity and leadership and saying, the way it's been done isn't working. So I have no problem saying, let's scrap the way it's been done and let's try something new. We can take bits and elements, but let's try something new. And there's a freedom in that. Yeah. And then there's an accountability in that. It's like holding that leader you put in charge of that thing to say, so then make it happen, solve the problem and hold them accountable to that.
Well, I think you get into the spiral that is back to business that municipalities get into that are hard to solve if you're working in government. Government is bureaucratic and it's very, very slow. And I know that when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing anything new, speed is important.
Right.
You don't have a lot of time. Right. You're constantly making judgments about whether you're under threat, the business model, or if you're ahead, you're paranoid that someone's catching up.
Right.
And what ensures that speed, the pivots, is having access to capital and having the ability to move fast and know that when you get there that you have the resources to do it. So in government, what happens many times is, it may be the right approach, but then you don't have the funding or all of the funding. So instead of doing all of it and leaving some dry powder, it's bits and pieces, it's fits and start. You get ahead and then someone says, well, the metrics aren't there. Then there's the excuse in some cases. Well, we ran out of funding or, the tax basis was lower than it was in prior years. And then you kind of, make these sort of incremental improvements. But if you understand the J curve in just business, which is really investment, and we'll go back to big numbers, $1 billion investment, let's say in infrastructure, is going to look like a loss. But what we're hoping is that $1 billion generates, $2 or $3 billion worth of value. And then you get into another question: how do you measure that value? How do you measure that value? I know I'm always talking in terms of value because that's the way I think about it as a business person. It's if you're holding me to the income statement today and you don't understand this concept of time value of money, that I'm measuring the return on investment by, let's go back to education, by the number of children who are actually going on to college, the number of children that go on to college and then come back and then start businesses or are employed here. Whatever metric is a value metric, which is a direct derivative or is a derivative from the work on the policies and the change, you have to be patient for that. And what I worry about America is that we are going back and forth, right? We're saying, this group wants this, and then we swing this way. And then somebody else takes office, and then we swing that way. But we're kind of going like this in the middle, but we never get these wide, moments of change that we can double down on and say, you know what, this is just better. We rarely get there.
Right.
And, I think money, I hate to say it, and access to capital is a way to really avoid some of the fits and starts because you have that dry powder, and to put in place everything you would need to put in place to manage the narrative. So when somebody says in year one, after you put in the $1 billion, well, it's not working.
Right.
Well, it's not supposed to work the first year. Okay, now check with me on the second year. Oh, it looks like more kids are graduating. Okay, the third year. And then you look up, and with this measure of value, you can say your $1 billion generated all of this, and it's an insignificant amount of money relative to the money you give away every year, but do it here. So I would do my best to do that, maybe put together some sort of business council, use their network to bring in folks who are already giving. What I always say is they're already giving away the money.
Yep.
But why not here?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what's the grand bargain? I don't know. Maybe they say, I want to run it. And I may say, well, that's too much. But that's what I would do. I'd start looking out, right, to expand our pie, to become the model citizen. And I think I would put a lot of money into advertising.
Yeah.
I'd begin to tell our story. This is who we were. This is where we are today. Here's where we're going. And here's what I want you to hold me accountable to. And I would just hammer it.
I mean, that's what we need to do just as a state in Connecticut. Like, right? When what is like what's Connecticut's draw? Like, what's like, and maybe coming from California, like there's something about being Californian. If you're from Texas, there's something about being Texan. Well, like what's the draw for the state of Connecticut, for people to not just say it is, oh, we're between New York City and Boston. It's like, no, it's like us.
Well, it's evolving. I mean, it's a narrative. So if you're in Lower Fairfield County, it's a suburb of New York City. Right. You know that. So it's as long as New York is there, that's always going to be that. Unless we get a fast train. And I mean, not like a, Excella that goes a few miles per hour faster. Like a real bullet train. Right. Then I think that expands for, as long as you're within an hour, let's say, of New York, it's a suburb of New York.
But what's the draw to invest in Connecticut?
Here's what I'm saying. And so, but then there's a history, right?
Yeah.
And so the history is, New Haven and Bridgeport could have been, I won't say Boston, but they could have been, Detroit.
I mean, it could have been amazing. I mean, 1831 should have been the first HBCU here in New Haven.
It could be a lot. It could be a lot of things. And then if you go up the road to Hartford, we knew that that's a financial center for the world through insurance, some of which has moved down to Stanford, some of which has moved into New York City. So the provenance and the history of Connecticut is you come here to make money and raise your family. Mm. And then we got aerospace and defense, we got all the whatever. So the DNA of what it was is solid.
Yeah.
Right? It's a solid foundation. But the world has changed.
Yeah.
So a lot of that manufacturing has left. A lot of the banking has become global, et cetera, et cetera. So jobs are disappearing. So the real question is, so who are we? Well, we're the shoreline. We're like beautiful countryside. We are proximity to New York City. We're proximity to Boston or whatever. We just lean on that. It's quiet. And if you need to get to Boston, you need to get to New York. I think that's what's great about Connecticut is that it sort of is the best of all of it. Mm. I mean, if you get up towards, Mystic, it feels like, it is New England, but it feels like the Cape, because you're going into the Cape, and it's It feels like a resort like. It's beautiful in the summer. People come up here to visit and enjoy it. Double down on that.
Yeah.
If you go up to, the corner, Litchfield County, love it up there.
Yeah.
The hikes and the whatever, own that. And then if you're in, let's say, New Haven and Hartford, et cetera, to me, that's the turnaround strategy. Who do we want to become? So if you're if you're New Haven, let's lean into what we really do have. We have multiple universities.
Mm-hmm.
We have an award-winning research institution in Yale, New Haven Health. We have Yale.
Yeah.
We have motivated government who's trying to do things. We have smart people like you who are focused on whatever. And it's not a big city.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot to really, it feels like a lot because there's a lot of money, but there's not a lot to really, one or two big things
Yes.
could change it. One major employer can change the entire dynamics of New Haven if an entrepreneur comes here and they build, the next unicorn.
Right.
Right. So I think Connecticut needs to be Connecticut, right? Tell our story, our history, let people know what we're doing and where we're headed, and invite people to invest in it. And I'm not saying that's easy, but I think we do know enough people where you can get one or two of those billionaires here to say, do your work here.
Yeah.
Do it with us.
Yeah.
You don't get carte blanche,
Right.
but you can really make an impact in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And Bridgeport should do the same thing, and et cetera. So,
and then it becomes a proof point. Like we become for other states and for other spaces to say, like, this is when you do take a full investment, when you do like create the conditions, these are the conditions that can be created to support community and to make a change in a state, which I think other states, they're always looking at each other.
Well, you have to be willing to really break things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to break them, you have to have the resources to build them back.
Yes.
And I think what happens with politicians, I've never been a politician, but I worked around politicians, is, they have limited resources. So they have to express what they want to do, knowing that they're not going to be able to get all the way there.
Right.
And then hope that they've done enough between, in between election cycles to get reelected the next time. I think the dynamic changes if you're not worried about the resources to get it done. You just say, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And then you're accountable. And then at the end of the day, you either get reelected because you did what you said you were going to do, and people are happy about that, or not.
Yeah.
But we know it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
At the moment.
Well, I don't know if it's ever going to work like that, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And so you got to work within the system, but we're talking about what you can add on to the system to get around what we know is inherent to trying to.
Do we always have to work within the system? Because if the system doesn't work, and I'm not talking about like, how do you work around capitalism? Like that's like in the foundation of that is our economic system.
I don't think you work around it. I think you embrace it. I think first you got to say, well, what's wrong with it? So what?
All right. So those are the things that are wrong. Here's what we're going to do
It's here.
Yeah.
This
is like, what we're working with.
Yeah. And then we got everything else that runs through it. It's like, we have racism. We have, like classism. We have all these other things that are woven into, our way of life. And then you have to say, okay, I'm going to use that tool, but here's where I depart from that tool. I'll say that the government, now we're talking about the government, has a responsibility to ensure a middle class.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do think that governments can do that while holding on to the tenets of capitalism, which is really what's underpinning the American dream. So you have to keep people's dreams alive.
Yeah.
I can come to New Haven, I can raise my family, and I can get ahead or sustain. Like, that's it. Or you're just stuck here. It's a place I can live. It's where I'm from. I don't have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One subsidized, this, that, and the other. I believe that for certain people, government can pave the way. Like, people should have a right to health care, right? Some basic health care. People should have a right to a decent education.
Mm-hmm.
They have a right to safe cities and safe streets. So for me, those are non-negotiables. We would try to make that happen. And then outside of that, it's like, okay, now what is the continuum of what we do, let's say, within education? Do we want a test-based school? What does that do? Does it keep more people in? Well, it crowds out certain people. Yeah, but it also keeps people here that are great members of our society, but they're driving in from the suburbs because they feel like they can't afford the private schools here and that the schools are failing them. So if we gave them something, now we increase our tax bases. Okay, then it's like, well, what do we do about the people who are displaced? All right, well, we can do stuff about that too. So like if you think about the different orders and you have the money to do it, you can ensure that there's certain social services that we provide that are basic rights, education, whatever, while we also hold on to the tenets of, but we're gonna make it easy for you to make money. We want you to be here so that you can make money because that creates more jobs. So it's that balance between those two things. And yeah, there's gonna be angry groups in the process because you may have to I'm not saying break the unions, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you may have to negotiate with unions and balk on some concessions while you give some concessions, but let's be honest, it's not working.
And what you're saying is there is something about having I don't know if it's courage to just to say that, to say this isn't working. Yes, it's going to be there's going to be inequity, but like here is how we're going to make things better. Like it's almost saying there's always going to be things are never going to be like equal. There's always going to be some inequity, but it could be we could be doing things better than by trying to make everything, and equity is different than equality. Recognize that. But trying to lift everybody up at one time is not the path.
Well, I don't
forward.
think you can lift everybody.
Right.
I think we can lift more people up.
Yeah.
And that we can have an egalitarian system that's based on the greater good for everybody. So I may be a little worse off because I pay higher taxes, but I benefit from that if everybody's doing it because I could use the public schools if I wanted to use the public schools. So I'm willing to make that trade-off, right? And somebody may say whatever the other end of that from their particular station. So if you go with the greater good theory, we're all sacrificing and we're all gaining.
There you go.
And I think the leaders have to be good or better about just those sound bites. And this is the part I don't understand. I don't understand the lack of honesty in politics, right? And so if somebody says to me, we have a crime problem and we want to reduce crime and crime doesn't go down, I want to know why.
Right.
Why? Well, we didn't have enough police officers. We didn't have enough equipment. We didn't have enough.
You don't think that that's somebody's like personal ego coming into play because there's always well, I need to get reelected and I need to, and
yeah.
To me, that's like it becomes all about the ego and not about the collective or the like saying, no, just be honest about it.
I just hold people accountable.
Just people just don't want to admit when something doesn't go right, like, or you don't want to admit when you're wrong, and you're like, just admit it, just own it.
Well, I say, so what? So like the so what is, I want to change our immigration policies, and so when I change our immigration policies, we as a country will be X, Y, and Z. You're accountable.
You said this is what you want.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like it's got to be better, and so we can give time for that. But it just has to be better, right? And so I say, okay, so what? And I may not agree, but at least we want to hold folks to the so what. So if I'm making it smaller. If you say New Haven has a crime problem, perceived or real, I'd say, so what are you doing about it? And they would say, okay, I'm doing A, B, and C. And I would say, you're effective or you're not. And then they may say, well, I couldn't do it because I had a great plan, but I didn't have enough money. Okay, let's try to solve that. Or if I just had this, I could do this, that, and the other. But I don't want to hear, you should reelect me when I promised I was going to fix something. Right. And there's no signs that it's being fixed.
Right.
That's the part that fails me.
Yeah.
And it is all ripe for manipulation through like fake news and social media and now AI and dupes and all that kind of stuff. So you don't really know what's real. And we're in these echo chambers. But the challenge is to elevate that. right, to say, I don't care what they say. These are the numbers.
Right.
On both sides. We said crime was going to go down by 10% and it didn't. It went up by 10%. We have a problem. And I want to know we have a problem before we have a big problem.
Right.
When we're in the yellow, not when we're in the red. And then I want to have enough money and enough people and enough smart people around it to be able to say, okay, now we're going to push on something else because that didn't work. So this...
I like that. So what? Like, all right, so what? Like, what are we going to do about it? And then saying, and if you need help, like, what do you need to get to the so what, like to solve this issue?
Yeah, because that's with our kids. They're like, yeah, I got an issue. And
right,
I'm like,
right.
okay, so
all
what?
Right, so what?
So what?
Like,
Yeah,
what are you gonna do about it?
Right. So
right. What do
you got a bad grade.
Right.
Okay,
like,
so you got the bad grade. So what are we doing differently? Now let's dig into it. You didn't study enough. You're in the wrong class.
Right.
Teachers mad at you, whatever.
So then how do we hold you accountable to like do the things you need so you get a better grade? And if you do those things and you get a better grade, well then like it worked out. And if you don't get a better grade, then it's okay, now what? Now what
yeah, and then the permission to, and that's why I do sort of like these what I call, heavyweight teams, outsourced, whatever, is then you want to say, okay, you have the capacity and you have the resources to sprint at this. Mm-hmm. Your job is to fix education. Mm-hmm. And I have your back. At the end of the day, it's going to go up or it's going to go. I mean, the metrics are going to go up in our favor. They're going to go down against us. But remember, we're telling the public, come here because we're making improvements.
Yeah.
And then we raise the baseline, and then we go from there. And when you have a plan, that's why I said marketing. When you have a plan and you communicate it, everybody knows what they need to do. Mm-hmm. So for education, my education plan is I'm going to do A, B, and C. And I'm looking for, money, a certain kind of teacher, certain kind of resources, certain kind of connection to higher education. And I'm looking for those partners. So then you just go out and you do it. And then you start to measure.
Yeah.
But without that, you're just what I say, you're marking time. You get paid for being the politician. Mm. And I'm not impressed. Mm-mm. And I'm not talking about any one specific person. I mean, politicians serve and it's a big deal. But, I'm holding them as accountable as I hold myself.
Right.
Meaning generate results. And if you're not having results, then just tell me.
That's the piece, like being able to be about results, because that's what I hold myself to. If I'm going to do something and I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to hold myself accountable to doing the thing. And if I need something, I'm going to ask for it. And if I don't make the mark, I'm going to own it. And I'm going to say, I didn't make the mark. Here's what I need to do differently.
Yeah.
It is very frustrating when, and then I expect that of others, but we know that others don't always show up like that.
Well, and it's a young, I say it, I mean, I'm not tired, but it's a young person's game, right? I like, it's coming full circle. I like finding the young people with that energy, mm-hmm. That when you give them the support, they just get it done.
They get it done. And they'll figure out ways that I might not, I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that worked.
Yeah. And so my highest and best use, I feel like at least, and I can do some of it still, but is to be that mentor.
Yeah.
To guide, to listen, and to encourage. Mm-hmm. And it's a cliche, but it's, can we find that next generation of activists, mm-hmm. leaders who want to do their work here?
Yes.
And do we have the resources to support them and put them into our engine and let them do their thing? And the last thing I would say is, and also be okay when they fail.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem. It's and so if you fail, get up and do it again.
Get up.
And
we have to be
and we
there
have money
to
for
say,
it. Yeah.
Yes, and we have to say, yes, get up, do it again. Do something else, do it differently. Yes.
I'm trying to build a soccer team here.
Yes.
It's a family affair at this point. I'm determined to make it something that's good for our city. Mm-hmm. So I can leave it to other people who want to run so that when I come back here 20, 30, 40 years from now, it's still kind of doing its thing, maybe in the same form or if not better. But it's going to require me bringing in people who have more energy than I do.
Right.
I don't know if they have better ideas than I do. No, I'm joking.
But it's about it's the generational impact that then continues for generations.
Exactly.
And that is I think one of the biggest points of our leadership, and even this conversation today that I'm taking away, is how we are leading the next generation of leaders and how we're guiding them and mentoring them. Because there's much to be done, and they are so primed to do it.
Yeah, and we're only called to lead or remain in this position if we deliver.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
It's true.
Right? Because I feel like we're a steward of not just the capital, but of the people, of the community, or whatever. We're positioning ourselves as that. That's who we want to be. And I would say we don't deserve to strive if we're losing all the time.
Right.
But we win most of the time, but I don't win all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often said, so why do I have to apologize for a failure when I know that capitalism and venture capital and all that kind of stuff is built on a concept of most of you will fail.
Yep.
But we got to keep letting people fail because we got to get to that person
who's going to win,
who makes transformational change. And that's a system. That's a ideology. That's a way of life. And that's like getting people to realize like this is a place to be. There's enough for you here.
Yeah.
And we're building it, and come join.
With that, we're done.
Perfect.